Hey, what's up guys? I thought I would go over my shortcuts for Male Striker and Rogue. I know a lot of people say that playing on controller in this game is impractical, and arguably, like I've said before they had the custom move inputs, that was definitely true. You were definitely at a disadvantage compared to someone who was just playing on a keyboard. But thanks to the custom move inputs, if you have a little creativity, you put some work into it, you can definitely perform on par with someone who's playing on keyboard. So the way that I play, this goes for every character that I play. These 4 bars right here, these 4 slots, I use the triggers on. What I normally use these for is moves that, you know, they have like some kind of directional influence, like a Shining Cut, for example. Like having a hotkey for that is really nice because you can actually control the direction. Whereas if you do it with you know, manual command, it won't work as well. So I usually use these, like these are like the 4 main moves. Normally like low cooldown moves. Normally I'll have like maybe like 1 or 2 cube moves on here. It depends on the class. These other slots are basically just for reference, so I know when things are off cooldown. So I can you know, I am doing all of these manually except for these 4, but you know, it's nice to know when things are going to be off cooldown, what I can prepare my combos and my positioning and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and show my commands here. Chainsaw Rush is down, down, C. For my controller layout, I use square as map to attack. Z is map to skill. Space is skill 2. Normally, you know, you're casting like power fist, stuff like that. You know, stimulating breath, all those things. And then X is jump. And then the trigger buttons are for these 4 moves here. I tend to use select and start for consumables. You know, I'll use them for like potions and stuff like that to have quick access. And I have assist on the left analog stick, or L3. For R3, I might map that to escape so I can play with, you know, not having to touch the keyboard. But my awakenings, I always put them on quarter circle forward and space so you can get them out really fast. Depending on the character, you know, with the rogue, you don't really need to get it out that fast since it's not an actual attack. It's more of a you know, passive buff that gives you crazy bonuses and stuff like that. But this is generally what I use. I normally map second awakenings to down twice in space or circle. Aslet Spiral is a dash input in space. Excel Strike got so much faster. You definitely want to have it on as simple of an input as you can. So I got rid of Flying Squirrel. I also got rid of Throw Kunai so that I don't get overlapping inputs and stuff like that. I just mapped it up to up and Z, or up and triangle. Same thing for Lightning Arrow, double forward, double tap forward and Z. Chainsaw is quarter circle forward and Z. Sonic Assault is quarter circle forward and jump. Vertical Spiral, I tend to keep this move at level 1, but it's really good for positioning, and the hit end is also a great combo extender, so I just put that on down twice in Z. Since I don't use it too often, it's not really a core move. Double Piercer, I didn't even bother with. This move is still really weak. The hit end is really nothing spectacular either. I have Breaking Rush on space. You do have some directional influence with it, and it's definitely one of the most important ways to defend yourself and extend your combos. So you want it on something that you can just quick fire. So I put it on space, which is a circle on my controller, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the full move set. I'm not sure where I'm going to put the second awakening active and the extra skill that you get at level 75. I haven't decided that yet. I'll have to find an extra slot. I'm kind of running low on spaces. I'm probably going to put it on quarter circle forward and X or square or something like that. So I'm going to go over my Male Striker as well. Male Striker was always really easy to play before the revamp because most of his moves really weren't that great. It was a lot easier to decide what you wanted to specialize in, but now everything he has is pretty good, so I think you're going to see a lot of variance with this character as opposed to other characters where, you know, the builds have pretty much been decided and everyone runs the same stuff. But what they did with the revamp is they made him a lot more advanced. It's just that he's much faster. The muscle shift is always on as long as you activate it once, which is nice, so you can actually use it for cancels and stuff. Most of his moves were adjusted so that they actually flow together and they actually chain properly, which is a problem that he had before. He could not chain stuff together as fast and fluid as the female fighter could. Now he's on par, if not better, which is definitely something he needed. He always felt really clunky, and he was always kind of the redheaded stepchild of the fighter classes. But now he's in a really good spot. I don't really know too much about raid effectiveness, but I'm not really at that point. I probably never will get to that point, considering how much RNG and money you have to pay. So in terms of just fun factor and just playing through the normal game, he's actually pretty effective. I have Atomic Cannon, also known as the One Punch Man move, is mapped to quarter circle forward and jump. Power Descent, which is like a kind of a dive drop kick. I have that mapped to double down and C, that way I can still use backsteps. Although backsteps you don't really need to use as much on this character anymore. It's kind of up to preference. Now that you have the pure walk cancels, you can backdash with that. But obviously you don't really have that many muscle shift cancels to begin with, unless you go crazy and you get all kinds of buffs. I know there's the Legacy set will give you an extra one. You can get an extra one on your avatar top, which is actually what I'm running right now, so I have an extra cancel. Allows me to go through the map without running out as often, unless I go too crazy. Continuum Kick is quarter circle forward and X or square. I have Spin Kick mapped to up and X. All the buffs are pretty much just basic, the same way they always are on my other classes. Pretty much explain that on the Rogue. Flame Tornado Kick is actually really good now, since you have, you know, moves that you can do out of it. It does more damage, the animation is not as long, and it doesn't launch them as high, so you're not unsafe, you know, kicking at the air for so long like you were before the revamp. Dragon Kick is obviously, you know, the signature move of the male strikers. I have that mapped to quarter circle forward and Z, which is triangle. Same thing, Awakening, universal input that I use on all my characters is quarter circle forward in space, which is circle on my layout. Close Kick is down in space, since that's kind of a free slot. You can just use it whenever you want. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how I play. It definitely takes some practice. If you decide to use this layout, if you're tired of playing on the keyboard, or you just, you know, you don't like it like I do, you definitely want to go spend some time in the training room and get used to the commands and stuff. This character is a lot more technical than he was before. He was really simple before. There really wasn't a whole lot to him. You know, a lot of the videos you saw of him clearing stuff really fast were like in practice mode with like tons of buffs or burning time going on. You know, they have like crazy gear and stuff like that. And that was the only way that he was able to compete. But now he does pretty good damage. I don't really have anything spectacular in terms of gear. And he does a pretty ridiculous amount of damage. It's just you have to really utilize the cancels. The only thing that I don't like about him right now is that you only get 6 muscle shift cancels, which I guess they did to balance out the fact that he can dump out so much damage really fast. But I guess the upside is that you know, it is technical. It does take practice to do that, so I wouldn't really call it broken. You can't just you know, on the female striker, you can kind of just push buttons as long as you have an order and things will work. Even on hyper armored enemies, with him you have to adjust things differently, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's my guide on how to play male striker and rogue on controller. I always see people say that you know, you can't play these classes on controller, or you're going to be disadvantaged and stuff like that, and that's really not true. It just takes some effort on your part. You know, if you're going to play with the default skill inputs, which is like for Awakening is like up up down down Z, obviously you're going to be at a disadvantage. But since you can customize everything, there's really no disadvantage at all. Really, it's just it takes some time to find things that you want. You can map commands to all 4 of the buttons, so your attack, both your skill buttons, and jump. So you have 4 slots, and you know, even with all the new moves that they're adding and stuff, you can add pretty much everything on manual input with a little bit of a stretch. There's actually a weapon that I'd really like to get for my rogue. See if I can find it here. This one right here, attack damage plus 5% every empty skill slot. I would definitely love to have that, because these are the only 2 skill slots that I have, so that would be an extra 40% damage. That would be pretty bonkers. That would definitely be my dream weapon for Rogue, since I already play manual input anyway. There's actually a Korean named Jung Won on Twitch. He has one of these weapons, and he has his entire skill hotkey bar empty, and he's doing like ridiculous damage. It's crazy. Like an extra 60% damage. And he has really good gear too, so it's like he just decimates everything. I don't think I'll ever get to that level, but that would be a cool weapon to have. I wonder if there's one for the male striker. Doesn't look like they have one for male striker, at least not yet. But yeah, there's my guide. If you want to play on controller, you can do this with any character. It's just you want to make the inputs as simple as possible if you want to actually compete with people who are just using the hotkeys. Like you have to put some work into it, find what works for you. This is by no means a definitive setup. This is just what I use. And with this class, I had to tweak things a lot, since now he can cancel everything. You definitely want to get things out as fast as possible. If you're, messing around with really long inputs and stuff like that, your combo is going to drop and you're going to waste time and get damaged. It took a lot of effort, but I think I've got him in a pretty good spot right now. The only thing that I'll need to map from here on out is his second awakening, which I'm probably going to put on down space, which is a circle on my controller. We'll see what happens. I haven't gotten it yet. I'll probably get it tomorrow. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.